This week's discussion board focuses on nonverbal communication and our thoughts and perceptions regarding how we use it in session and certain implications we need to be aware of while working with diverse cultures and various backgrounds and individuals entering counseling. And our first question is, what are some of the nonverbal cues that we utilize in session and some of the things that we do that the first thing that I know that I'm aware of when it comes to nonverbal communication or nonverbal cues is because of my background in special education, I've always been taught utilizing multiple means of communication is the best way to articulate ideas and thoughts to individuals. So I use my hands a lot, whether it's prompting or for, again, nonverbal cues to individuals in an educational setting. And it's kind of continued now, and I know that I still do it. And there are times that I realize that it's probably not necessary or it may be coming off the wrong way, but it's something that I'm really focusing on and attempting to minimize in session. But it's really hard when you've used it so much. But I've also used it in professional settings. I have a professor that I work with that does have a disability with hearing, and it's a severe, profound hearing disability. So she relies on the nonverbal communication of the mouth as well as hand gestures to, again, understand what's going on in conversations. So I use it a lot, particularly with her, because it's important for her to be involved in the communication. And if you're excluding a person, whether it's disabilities or, again, from cultural backgrounds or diversity backgrounds, from the communication, you're segregating them. You're putting them in a position where they can feel uncomfortable and marginalized, and they revert backwards, and they don't feel like they're really a part of, again, what's being kind of discussed. Relating to the second part of that is the nonverbal cues that I know that I use in session. Well, at least they've been brought to my attention from my peers kind of during video presentations and stuff like that, and I kind of revert back to picking up a pen, and I think that is a result of me trying to make sure that I'm not doing a lot of hand gestures. I pick up a pen, and if I hold it to my side, I can kind of just keep it there. I don't know. Again, it's something that's been brought to my attention, and it's something that I attempt to keep pens away from me. However, working in the career counseling, the higher education setting, working with resumes, you need to make adjustments on, with critiques and stuff. So it's a catch-22 really for me. It's hard for me not to have a pen close because I need it and not use it while I'm sitting there discussing certain topics or concerns with clients. The other part is I like to put my leg up. I like to kind of move back into my chair and put my leg up, and I know that at times can be considered closing yourself off or coming off in an expertise position or an expert position. So I've realized when it's appropriate to use it and when not to do that. When a client comes in and we're working on very deep discussions of career exploration and stressors, whether it's grades or choosing a major or that interview process, things like that, things with a lot of pressure on students, I open the body up and I don't put my feet up, or not feet up, but my leg onto my leg up. So the other part, the second question is, do you believe it's important for us as people to pay attention to the nonverbal messages people send us, and why is it critical for us to pay attention to the nonverbal messages we are sending as well, particularly in relation to diversity issues? The first part is, I think it's important to pay attention to nonverbal cues. I really relate this to a Freudian slip almost. When you have a Freudian slip, you're typically stating the unconscious and it comes out. And I think nonverbal communications are always true expressions of a person's feelings. And I think that sometimes language, you have the ability to hide that. You have the ability to keep yourself in. So paying attention to a client's nonverbal cues during session is important because you're really going to get an idea of how they might be reacting not only the personal feelings within, but also how you're reacting. So, that comes also back to, is it critical to pay attention to our own nonverbal messages? I spoke about some of the things that I utilize, and I realize that it could be misconstrued with clients or students, and I don't want to come off as the expert. Everything that I kind of do is subjective in the career counseling. A resume is a personal document, and I always try to tell students, in the end, it's what you feel comfortable with. So I don't ever want to come across as an absolute. It's part of the counseling process that we're always talked about. Then you move into the diversity section. Certain cultures utilize nonverbal communication more than others. They feel more comfortable using it. They tend to revert back to that more than verbal communication itself. And I believe that 3/4 or something like that of nonverbal communication is the form of communication certain cultures use. So being aware when it's appropriate, when it's okay in a cultural situation to use nonverbal communication, but also being aware of other cultures' feelings towards nonverbal communication. I think both sides are important. And in the end, the reality is, again, it's communication. So if we're going to make all of these considerations and be aware of the communication aspects from a cultural standpoint, we need to understand all aspects of communication, whether it is nonverbal or verbal. So it's a very important thing to be aware of. It's an important topic to consider anytime you're kind of assessing a situation prior to a client coming in, researching. But being in tune with that nonverbal body language and stuff like that is really important, and it's something that I'm constantly being aware of on my own end, because I know that I do it. So have a good one.